I'll go through some intro stuff here. I'll do a quick intro in my slides. You can see my slides and stuff, right? My screen sharing.
Right, of course. Yeah, we can.
Okay, so I'll go through. Okay, perfect. So intro. So these are basically I teach at Harbor Space. That's how I met Ivy and Harry, right? Um, and these slides that you're gonna see are basically taken out of my class stuff. I kind of put in together a more freelance related slides here. Quick intro here. I was born in Taipei, Taiwan, 1990s. Um, and then I moved to Richmond, Virginia with my brother, my aunt, and my mom. So I grew up in Richmond, Virginia in the US. Then I went to school in Savannah, Georgia. And then after school, after undergrad graduation, I moved to Brooklyn, New York here. And that then this is just where I live and work now. And then because of Harbor Space, I also go to Barcelona and Bangkok, and my partner's in London as well. So I kind of bounce between those. And here you can see kind of where I went to school, how long I was full time at my first job. And then I started freelancing in 2017, and then I just kind of been jumping around, right? Should I just keep going, or are we starting now?
Yep, I think we can start. Go to start here. Right.
Okay. Okay, cool. Yeah. So I have a lot to, I added probably more than enough slides. So let's keep an eye on the time. So make sure we have a Q&A. So I'll just keep going, and then we'll have questions later. I'll go quick. And stop me if you have any quick thoughts and questions. But here's all the different animals I've worked with throughout my entire career. You know, cats and dogs. I worked at different studios, jumping to different agencies. You can see all the different dogs, office dogs that I met, office, even cats, even birds, right? Um, After the pandemic, I have, because after the pandemic, everything kind of moved to hybrid or remote, and you started to work more from home, work more through the webcam like Zoom as well. I wanted to show you kind of the work I do and the range of work, so you kind of get an idea of what I do as a motion designer. So here you can see more like branded content for social media content for brands, things like this as well, more collagey, more branded content for brands as well, introducing some kind of interview or podcast interview information. We have other social media things for brand. That's kind of like Squarespace wanted to have some Instagram stories where they had these educational posters about fonts and type and design principles. Um, most of the time as a motion designer, I am doing the animations. So that means the client has the designs ready, and then I apply the motions to it. So these are, in general, the designers that design out the different designs, and then I would go in and figure out the transitions and figure out how things move for them. See here, so here, Squarespace, there's a title card, and a typical motion designer will get this title card and say, hey, this is what we need for this specific situation. Can you come up with a couple ideas of how it's going to animate on, how it's going to animate off? And throughout the day, I'll work on these motion tests, do a check-in with the director or whoever is in charge, and then we collaborate and work from there. Oh, option 2, option 3, what do you think of this? What do you think of that? Right. Just more examples. You can also get into more kinetic topography, use of videos, use of images as well, and these motion things. Advertising is a big part of my job, where like these Google billboards and things like that, getting the designs from the designers and figuring out, okay, we want something to type up like a Google search. then we need to transition to the next search, or we need to transition into the map, whatever that is, and I'll figure out how these transitions work. I do a lot of branding stuff as well. So, for example, this is a early launch, the first launch of the Google Fi cell phone service. So the designers and the design team have gone through so many different iterations of the logo, trying to figure out what the logo is going to be. Hundreds of variations, and then I just need to keep making variations of how this logo is going to build on, what is the movement like, until we end up with the final result. And sometimes I do these kind of UI, UX animation. So here, for example, very simple Airbnb support page where they needed these little examples of this is how you search on Airbnb. This is how you see the ratings, and this is how you can comment. So I would make these videos and they'll put it onto the website, and you can see the little icons I wanted to move. There's little other little motion things that I had to do as well. But because these are video and not live coded animations on websites, so when they had to translate this worldwide, because Airbnb is a worldwide company, that means I had to make, like 3 videos plus 68 different languages. So that's 68 times 3, right? So I had to convert and make all the different languages, around the world. Sometimes I get to go and work on prototypes and kind of what is the motion of different products. And this is something that's not just like websites and things anymore. This is now for something like the Google tablet. So this project was very specific with a company called Hobbs, and Hobbs is working with the Google Android team, and the Android team needed some help and some guidance on how would the Google Assistant be animated on the new Pixel tablet, because the new Pixel tablet has you can use it really close to you, like handheld mode, but you can also dock it on the table. So then there's different things to think through, like how big should the type be, how fast should the assistant come in, what are the order of things, how should things come in and leave the screen, what directions they come in. So we had to figure out tons and tons of motion tests and figure out what would be some of the guidelines, and then we will present that to the Google Android team, and they'll take that presentation and figure out the final things for their app. Other things here, I do some of these more educational documentary journalism animations as well, where this is for Vox, on a Netflix show on Vox called Explained, and each episode they're explaining a different thing, like dogs and skin and chess, and the designers and the art director will figure out, and the writers will figure out what the episode's going to be about. And there's little bits of the episode that are diagrams or pictures that needed to be animated to tell the story, to explain a very specific kind of problem that we need to solve through animation and illustration to communicate clear the information, right? This is just more examples. This episode's more on voting history in the U.S., so showing this collage style and showing different histories of voting in the U.S. Here. Here you can see I also worked on something with like animation in live action as well. So this one involved me going with the team to different Airbnb host locations and to film them and to make these little videos as little guides for other Airbnb hosts. So these hosts are maybe the top ones, and they all have a couple of tips, and we make specific styles for each of the hosts to match their home, to match their personalities. And these will go on YouTube to showcase like, hey, this is how you take photographs of your Airbnb, or this is how you style your Airbnb, things like that. One thing to note is all the projects that you're seeing now, it's not just me doing the on me as the only person on the project, right? Most of the time when you're working in the creative industry is you're in a big team, usually at least a couple people or more, right? So with the Airbnb one, that was a pretty big team of illustrators, uh, live action camera crew, the editors, the sound person, the lighting person, the writer, the producers. So it involves a huge team of people to make something like this, right? And that was more leading the creative side, the illustration side, the design side, the animation side, having illustrators help me design everything, and then having some animators and me finish animating everything, right? But just to show you that usually it takes a big crew to make anything impressive looking most of the time, right? So here, another more character driven one that's always fun to do. This is for Headspace, some Star Wars Headspace collaboration. And again, this was involving a whole team of animators and designers and creatives to make 4 or 5 episodes. I can't remember, of these little episodes about meditation and mindfulness for kids. We also have things like this where it's a huge team as well, where we have live action elements with digital painters who are painting these landscapes. And this is an advertising for like a vitamin or skincare kind of company as well. So trying to figure out how to bring these digital paintings to life in After Effects and giving it a bit more dimension, some wind, some fog, some camera movement. And you can see just how many people involved it takes to make something like this. And usually a project like that takes a month or two at least. Some things like this is really fun, but this is to show you these are magazine covers for Rolling Stone. This is to show you that there's also cell animators, meaning people who hand draw animation, and you can see the animation on the hand here, the smoke here. This is all hand-drawn animation. Same thing with the slime effects here in the front. Same thing with on the wheel, and then this stuff here, all hand-drawn frame-by-frame animation, while I was able to fake a lot of this stuff, like this one here, the little tentacles, the little volcano, the chain. Those things can be built in After Effects. Things like this water duck thing moving around, this camera movement of the scene to make it a bit more dimensional. The flags, the waving of the leaves, those are easier to do in After Effects than go hand by hand. Just some other examples of like brand related illustrations. This happens a lot where brands have a lot of little illustration and they wanted to bring it to life. So you'll make little loops of the animation like this. And then just showing you the wide range of possibilities with animation here. And I should just keep going, right, Ivy? Talking about motion design freelance now. Okay, cool.
Yes.
So,
Right.
So the thing with motion design freelance or freelance in general, students and people who are fresh in the industry usually are debating, like, oh, should I go full time? Should I get an internship? Should I go freelance right away? And my suggestions always for people who haven't really worked in the industry, who don't know too much about the industry, you only went to school or you took some classes, to always start full time somewhere, to always at least get an internship or something, right? That way you can learn more about the industry before you go freelance. And I'll go through this information here. But the things that you're going to see now are all based on my experience, right? And I have experience in the Western world, in the United States creative industry mostly. So I would say that freelancing is not for everybody. It takes a certain type of person, a certain type of mindset to freelance. because when you're freelancing, you're basically running your own business, right? You're your own boss. You're being the producer. You're also being the person who do the work. You're also being the person who schedules the meetings, the calls, the emails, the taxes, the all that things as I'll get into, right? So to be a self run business, which is just you, you need to be self-sufficient, you need to be organized, you need to be proactive, and these are the things I'll be talking about. But my recommendation is to start somewhere first full time, and if possible, go somewhere not fully remote, because I think having to go into a studio, to go into a space, to sit down next to a team, to be with a team, you'll learn so much more than just being at home and by yourself and remote working. So if you are able to find the internship and be able to go full time, stay for at least a year or two, if it's a place that it's helpful to you, right? So after graduation, after school, you'll not believe how much you still need to learn, and how much you will learn that first year being out of school and being at a full-time job. Because once you get into the full-time job, um, everybody around you is better than you, right? More experienced than you. So once you get into that situation, most of the time people are very helpful and they want to help you, and you're just constantly learning on this job. And you'll see the difference between school and job, and how much faster you learn on a job and learning about things that you never even thought about at school, at these jobs. So I think it's very important to start somewhere, uh, learn what the creative industry is. What does the producer do? What does the art director do? What does the creative director do? What is a pitch meeting like? What is a client call like? All those things I had no idea about when I got out of school, right? I was just learning animation. I had a little portfolio. I did interviews. I did some internships, and then I got after the internship for 3 months, then I got a full-time job, right? Um, so there's just so much to learn in this industry, besides just learning on how to do some good design, right? How to work with others, how to communicate. Those are the things that you pick up as you work in the industry. So you can see here different office space, different people I work with throughout my career as a motion designer. Um, and it's fun, right? Like, you don't want to be home by yourself all the time, right? You want to be in a space with like-minded people who are having fun building something together, creating something together, solving problems together, things like that, right? And it's really fun when you have a bunch of creatives together, everybody happy and like wanting to help each other, and you have fun at work, and then it makes work not really work anymore, which is a really nice thing, right? Um, and the other important thing about starting somewhere full time, or starting somewhere uh, interning at a place and starting somewhere full time, is you need time to grow your professional network. And if you don't have this professional network, freelancing is going to be very tough, of finding work and finding clients and understanding how these things work, right? So, because being in the creative industry is a social industry. It's all about working with other people and your relationship with other people, which is something I didn't really know about coming out of school. It's all about who you know and who you're working with, and that's it. Every job that comes to me is from people that I know. And so having this foundation of people that you like to work with, and starting to build this relationship with coworkers and making new friends, is very important early on in a creative career. So um, being at let's being at the internship I was at Be Real, and then I went full time for 3.5 years. That helped me build my foundation, right? I go to lunch with people, I go to dinner with people, I go to bars, or go to the movies, or different museums or events. And these are the moments where you're bonding with your coworkers, and then leading to longer friendship or professional relationships. Um, and you always be willing to help others at work, and other people are always kind of happy to help you with questions, because they understand if you're a more junior person coming out of school, they're not going to expect you to understand the whole process, right? They're going to help you, guide you through these situations. So it is very important to at least have your social capital, meaning your network and your relationships in the industry, in order to freelance later down the line easier. So looking at this, Be Real was where I was working at full time, and that foundationally, that is where all my potential jobs that I've been freelancing from 2017 onwards basically all came from people I knew from school, my friends from school, and people I knew from Be Real and that I met at Be Real. And the important thing to know is I've been very fortunate to meet all the different creatives, right? Being in New York, meaning some of the best are in this city, right? And when I'm working at Be Real as a junior, they would bring in freelancers who have been working for 10 years. And I will be sitting next to another animator that's been working in New York for 10 years, and I'll learn so much from them. And I'll go to lunch with them, and I'll ask some questions and learn new techniques, all that kind of stuff, right? Um, and all the work that I get from now, freelancing from 2017 from now, it's all from referrals from my time at Be Real and the people I met at Be Real and my school friends. I haven't had to reach out to, after Be Real, I haven't had to reach out to companies to get work. It's always been emails coming in and saying, hey, hey, Po, David from blah, blah, blah said that you guys worked together before. So I am at, Google, and he passed my email or your email to me and said that you do animation. He said he liked working with you, and can we talk and figure out the next project? That's the situation that happens most of the time, which is very important in this industry. It's all about referrals and how people pass your information along and saying, "Oh, I work with Ivy before, so somebody is looking for a specific thing and I can't take on that job." I'll say, "Oh, email Ivy, maybe she's free." That's the kind of thing that happens constantly, and there's always these email chains of producers and things like that passing information around, because it's all about collaborating in this industry. You're not, most of the time you're not working by yourself, so it's always constantly working together with an art director, working together with a producer, working together with another designer, another animator, a developer, whatever it is, right? You have a team of people making something. And you can see from my point of view of them being in animation, you see anything you see that's cool and you find it on the company website, you'll see the credits list, and it's usually a big credits list of talented people with a combined skill set and experience of a couple of years and years, right? So you can see once you get into 3D animation, it gets even more people involved because there's just more things need to be made and need to be created together, right? And you can see how big the team can get once it moves into 3D. So with all that said, the most important thing is being nice, and your attitude and personality is very important. This is something that I didn't really know about outside of school as well. It's not just about your portfolio. It's not just about how good of a designer you are, how good of an animator you are, because, and at the end of the day, the studio is a team of people, right? And you don't want to work with people that are complaining all the time, that are negative all the time. You want to have a healthy team of people who are not toxic. Everybody's very positive and collaborative, wanting to do their best, right? That environment is very different from an environment where people are just complaining, people don't want to do things, people are lazy. It's a very different building a team is a whole nother skill set that people do, right, in this industry. So here, TJ here, you can see he is a co-founder and producer at a bigger motion company, and this is from an interview of him talking about his experiences and his thoughts, right? So when he's looking for people to hire, looking for people, freelancers to hire and full-time people to hire, they're looking for how is the team and the studio health as a whole, personality that fits into the team, trumps everything else. That's kind of what he was saying, right? Like your attitude and work ethic, things like that matter more. So here he's saying, if you may be 80% of the designer of this other person who's 120% superstar designer, right? But this he's saying like I'll rather deal with somebody who might need a little bit extra work, a little bit extra guidance to say, oh, push this and do this, and this is the kind of thing. But that person is very excited and happy and very personable and sociable. They're going to hire that person over the person who is, a superstar designer, but really, really hard to work with and not collaborative. And this is the situations I see all the time now that, I'm in my 10th year of working in the industry now. So I started to see a pattern of people, my friends who run industry or people I know who are at leadership levels of these companies now. And the hardest thing for them is to find somebody who is, they're good enough to do their work, but also really positive and sociable, communicative. Those are the hard ones to keep, basically. And those are the ones that they're always looking for to bring onto the team. Because in general, people won't give you feedback about your bad behaviors. They just won't hire you again, right? Like as a freelancer, if I go in, let's say, and I behave badly, I'm negative, I complain all the time, don't really take feedback well, I might finish the project and they might be, it's a month into it, I'm done with my contract, and then they say, okay, Po, see you next time, blah blah blah, but they're never gonna hire me again, right? Sometimes people just don't hire them again, and then you don't know what you did wrong at that point, right? So it's important to keep these things in mind, because I had experiences of working with other animators or other designers, and it's just been such a struggle. Like trying to get them on Slack and trying to get communication, be like, hey, what's going on? Where's that file? And they don't respond. They're late to meetings all the time, or they're I tell them to do something for a client feedback and they say, no, I don't want to do that. That's not what I want to do. It's very hard to work with those people. And then when the producers come and ask me as an animation lead and says, hey, who are the people you need for this next project? Should we extend this person's contract or should we not? And I'll say, no, let's not work with this person. It's too tough for me to manage. And trying to handhold and guide and trying to communicate with them. Let's just hire this person instead of this person, right? And we don't talk about that anymore. We're not going to do a review and be like, this is why we're not hiring you again. We just companies don't have time for that, and they just they just don't hire you again, right? So make sure that your attitude is and your personality is very important, right? So here you can see, once you ruin your reputation, you can do whatever you want, right? But because your reputation is ruined, and in this industry, your reputation is everything, right? Because I've built up a reputation of being punctual. I deliver things on time. I'm positive. Then the producers and the creatives that I worked with will recommend me to other places. They will also hire me again because they know, they trust me and say, oh, Po did this great on the last project. Let's just hire him again, And that, as you go in the industry, that's the kind of reputation you want to build, because that leads to more work, right? In the future. So for sure, important with social media, with like Instagram or Slack or something, right? You need something in LinkedIn, whatever it is. You just need to keep in touch with people that you like to work with, or people that you like to work with in the future, or people that you like to work with continuously in the future as well. That people you worked with before and say, oh, I love working with Ivy on that other project. So maybe next year let's work on something together if a project comes in, right? Because the people that you're with now at school and the people that you're going to meet in your internship and your first job, those are going to be your foundations of your network, right? And most of the time you're going to spend a lot of time with them because you're working together, and friendships will build from that. Like a lot of my close friends all come from my BeReal internship and BeReal full-time job. and those are my closest friends now, and they're in different companies, and they'll hire me for other jobs, right? And then their friends of their friends and their coworkers of their coworkers, you recommend from that to that, and you can see how this network grows, right? Um, you have to, it doesn't, you don't need to say this, but some people aren't professional at all. It's very surprising of like people who you can kind of tell who is more mature and who is immature coming into a situation. And people who are uh, being professional, meaning one way is how to give and receive feedback, right? Because this is a job, right? This isn't some creative free thing. This is a business. So that means clients are your boss, right? The clients, whatever the clients say, you're trying to help the client solve a problem, right? So when a client gives you feedback, the art director usually and creative director usually need to process it, and then they'll come talk to you and say, okay, the client says it needs to slow down or this isn't working. What can we do to make this to solve this problem? And sometimes you find more junior creatives coming out of school, they take it very personally on these feedback, and you don't want to take it too personally, being like, if the client says this is not working, okay, my motion test didn't work, how do, and then be professional and you say, how would I use my skills to solve that problem, because they say it's not working, rather than being very sad about and like emotional about, oh, they don't like my work, what's going to happen. And that happens a lot with more junior people because you don't understand that yet, right? It's more of a, they're not trying to hurt your feelings, it's just we need to solve this problem, right? Oh, the logo isn't working, the UI thing isn't flowing right. So you just kind of, you go, okay, I get your feedback, let's clarify what you're looking for, let's problem solve and show you the next version, because design is an iterative process. So you're going to be doing version 1, show it, feedback, version 2, show it, feedback, version 3, show it, feedback, and you constantly change things until you get to the solution, right? The big thing that more junior people need to understand is that art and design are very different. Art meaning self-expression. You can do whatever you want as an artist, right? Your own personal projects, your paintings, your designs, posters, whatever it is. You can do whatever you want. Use whatever font you want, use whatever color you want. But in design, you're trying to solve a problem, and there's different things that needs to be made justified. You can't just use every font, you can't use every color. Every design decision has something that you a decision that you made basically to solve a specific problem, right? So Airbnb, they're this kind of brand, this is the art style we're going for, these are the colors, these are the fonts, this is the problem we need to solve. It needs to be social posters for Instagram during the pandemic. So how would the motion move and how would the designs move? So everything that I'm making all goes back to what the client brief is and what the client ask and problem is, and I'm using my skills and the designer's skills to solve that problem, right? I'm not doing it because I feel like I want to use blue or I feel like I want to do that. Design is very different from art, right? Art doesn't matter, you can do whatever you want because it's your self-expression, right? So in this world, it's a creative business, right? So you're still making money. You still need to run a business. You still need to make profit to pay people, right? That's part of this. So take feedback well, receive feedback, understand, and again, communication and work with your team, right? You can't just when somebody says when somebody gives you feedback for your project and you say, okay, we need to fix this, you don't just go, well, I think my solution is best and I don't want to do more versions. You can't be doing that, right? And sometimes I run in you, it's rare, but you run into people like this and you're like, okay, well, we need to solve this problem, is due tomorrow. What do you like, you're not really working with me here, you're just saying, no, I don't want to do that, which is not the type of mentality you want to have, right? And communication meaning, because we're remote already and hybrid and people are all over the world, communication meaning like when somebody emails you and somebody slacks you to talk to you to get information, um, you got to be responsive, right? Because time, sometimes something is time sensitive. So making sure that you have some notifications on when you need to, so you can have some communication on Slack, but then you can still go into focus mode, right? When you can focus on your work, but then you let the team know, being like, hey, from 2 to 4, I'm gonna just go heads down and I'm just gonna work. So I might not respond messages. Anything important, make sure you do this to reach me. And then you put everything on silence mode so that you just work, so you don't get distracted all the time, right? Those are kind of the things that you kind of learn as you go. Work ethic is very important as well. This idea of being proactive, and some people, when it's rare when some people are being proactive, meaning they're preparing things, anticipating things that we need without being told to do it. A lot of juniors come in as interns, and of course you're still learning as interns and junior creatives, right? But these are the things that I think you can keep in mind as you go in the industry of um, as an example, my friend who was a creative director, he worked at an agency, an advertising agency. He had a creative under him. Creative directors are usually in meetings all day. They're just in client meeting to another client meeting to another review, and they can make a lot of decisions, and their time is taken up, right? So in the morning, they do a kickoff with designer, and he says, "Okay, today we need to get this design done for this client, and this is the problem. Can you spend the day trying to solve this problem, make a design that's like this, right?" And then and then the creative director is now at a meeting, and then this other designer has a whole day to do the design, and they're gonna meet at 5 p.m. by end of the day to go over the design. So then okay, the creative director, now my friend, is now 5 o'clock. They meet and say, okay, show me what you've done throughout the day. Let's talk about your work. And that person only shows one thing and didn't really spend too much time on it, and says, okay, I did the thing that you asked me to do, and then I didn't know what else to do. So they kind of wasted an entire day from 10 to 5, did it doing one design, when being proactive means, okay, here's the problem that he gave me. I have until 5 to solve this problem through design or motion. Um, that means I'm gonna do the design that they were asking first to see if it's working. So then I'll do version 1 and say, okay, I did everything that he asked for, the client asked for. But now it's 11, it's 12 now. I go to the lunch, right? And then I come back, it's 1 o'clock, let's say. Now I have 1 to 5, I have 4 hours. This person just sat there and didn't do anything, just waiting. So being proactive means, okay, well, let me see. This is the design. Clients asking for these are the problems. Maybe I have some other ideas, right? So then I'll do a version 2, I'll do a version 3, I'll do a version 4. Maybe I change the type, maybe I change this motion, maybe I change the color, maybe I change the thing, just to see, right? I'm solving specific problems. I'm making these design decisions to solve those problems, right? Then at the end of the day, I'm able to present all my versions to the creative director and say, okay, version 1 is, at the end of the day, version 1 is the one that we think is the most basic and the most uh, what the client asked for. But here's version 2, 3, and 4, and this is why I think version 2 works. This is why I think version 3 works. This is maybe version 4 doesn't work, but it's still good to see something that doesn't work, because that also gives you feedback to say, oh, actually the type should not be this big because version 4 is not working, right? That's still good information to have, right? So being proactive like this makes you look like a better designer as well. You can't just say, oh, I spent 8 hours doing one design, when another person says they did the design and they also have 4 other thoughts and other things trying to push the design, right? It doesn't mean you constantly have to be working, but it's a balance of this, right? Being organized is very important in the creative industry, plus being in freelancing as well. So meaning organization of your files is very important, because you're working with a group of people, team of designers, team of team of animators, right? So you're where you're putting your file on Google Drive and Dropbox and how you're naming it, what your files look like in Figma, are things organized in folders and all that stuff. All that stuff is super important, right? Time management, um, just understanding like if you're going to go freelance, time management is very important, right? When do I do the calls? When do I do my invoices? When is the deadline? When is the check-in? When is the review? You got to keep in mind a lot of these things. But right, these are the things that you learn as you go, that you need to keep in mind, being like, okay, how do I work so I'm not being distracted all the time? Do I put my phone away in the other room when I'm working? Do I go full screen so I'm not looking at other things? Things like that to keep you focused, right? Because it is very hard to focus when you have your phone going off all the time, right? Um, Being punctual is very important. Don't be late to meetings, right? Be 5-10 minutes early just to settle in. If you're going to an interview, you definitely don't want to be late, right? If you go into the client meeting, you don't want to be late. Things like that. Going to work. Other things, don't assume. Meaning, um, if you're working and then you're like, oh, when is that meeting again? Is it at 4 or is it at 5? You don't just go, oh, I think it was at 4 and that's it. You're assuming it's at 4, but just double check, right? Maybe message your producer and say, hey, do we need to send the file by at 4 or at 5? And then you confirm it. But some people just assume, being like, oh, I thought it was 4. Whoops, I missed it. It's 5 o'clock. That's not good for you to build that reputation, right? Same thing with comments and feedback from client. Client sometimes will give you feedback and it's unclear. You're like, I have no idea what they're trying to say, what they're trying to say about the motion test that I did. So then you take that bullet point number 3, and I'm like to the producer and I say, hey, I have no idea what they're trying to say. Are they saying the type is too big, or are they saying it's too fast? I'm not sure. So then the producer will then talk to the client, get clarification, come back to me and say, oh, they're saying that it's too slow. Just speed it up a little bit. Done, right? But you just don't assume those kind of things. Get confirmation. Being reliable, that's part of it, right? Being reliable, meaning when you think you're done with something, you're not, because you want to double check and quality control these things. So during final delivery, or even during review delivery, you have different designs, right? You have different files, different videos, things are named correctly. You render things out, you save things out, you put it in Google Drive in a certain folder, but then you double check them. You have to look through them. Is there a spelling mistake in this video? Is there a glitch in this Photoshop file? Whatever it is, right? After you finish, you want to budget in some time to give yourself 30 minutes, an hour before that deadline of like meeting with the client to just double check everything. Just look through all your files. Let's make sure everything plays correctly. Let's make sure there's no spelling mistakes, that kind of stuff, right? Um, this is probably the easiest way to get hired to more jobs is if you make somebody's job easier, they're gonna love you for it, and then they'll just hire you again. Because everybody who's leads, they have so busy that if they need to constantly, hey, where's that thing? Hey, what are you doing? Hey, can you show me this? Hey, are you coming to the meeting? Hey, if you're taking up too much of their time, like of course you can ask questions and stuff, right? But if you're taking up too much of their time, then why would they hire you as a freelancer? Because the whole point of hiring somebody as a freelancer is to get some work off of them in order for them to focus on their work, right? So if you can make somebody's job easier, most likely they want to hire you again because they trust you and you do your job, right? Partly of this is um, making their jobs easier, meaning um, let's say a producer, producers are usually the ones sending the files and talking to the client. So if I have a bunch of motion tests and designs I need to show, I'm going to name them all correctly. I'm going to put them all in a folder. Everything is organized, what version 1 to 5, and then I have a message on Slack with the link ready and being like, this is the folder, this is where the things are, and then I have a list of information. Version 1 is a slower one. Version 2 is a spinning animation. Version 3 is, and I write it all out, send that to the producer, and the producer's like, this is great. I have everything. I can just copy and paste this, write the email, send it off. onto the next thing, right? That makes you feel more professional and more make their job easier, and they trust you and they like you, basically. Um, this in this industry, social industry, everybody knows everybody, right? So you don't want to be gossiping about like, oh, why did Ivy do that? Blah blah blah. That was so annoying. Da da da. This stuff happens a lot, and you probably want to avoid these things because usually people know each other. And some, if I'm gossiping something about bad about somebody else, that person might know them from another job, or they're good friends, or they're roommates or something. So important to be humble as well. And you have to talk about your work. You have to post your work, right? You have to showcase your things, um, but you don't want to be bragging all the time. It kind of comes off a little bit um, uh, too much to me, at least, right? And you have to make sure you credit appropriately, being like, here's the thing I worked on, but I didn't do the design. I didn't do the direction or whatever it is. Make sure that you list out the credits so people, when they go to your website, they understand what part of the thing you did, instead of just saying, oh, I did everything, right? Or assuming that you did everything. Um, Most of the time, your work is work for hire, meaning you don't own this kind of work. If you're working for a studio, agency, or brand, you're solving their problem, and the work that you're making is theirs. It's not yours at all, right? You're being hired on full time or freelance to work for them, and it's a job, right? Varying your time. I'm going to go through it quickly. So, talking about rates and things like that for freelance, right? Because we're in this creative industry, we get a lot of clients who don't understand. Um, oh, you like drawing, so why do I need to pay you more for drawing? You like it, so why do I need to pay you so much? So knowing your worth is important. Make sure you ask around and find out what is the industry standard for where you are, right? This is different from Bangkok and Myanmar and US and Europe. Different rates, different living cost of living. So it's very different, right? So just ask around, make sure that you have the average rate, and then go from there, right? Um, Jobs like this, clients are always being like, "Hey, we are a big brand. We can't pay you, but you're gonna get a lot of exposure," right? The classic thing. So be careful. Don't get taken advantage of. Most of the time, don't do the free work um, unless it's for a good cause or something you care about, right? You want to help out with something, but you still want to charge something. You can lower your rate. Let's say you're $300 a day, right? And then, but a good cause is something you want to help out. Or they reached out and says, "Hey, do you have some time? We need this kind of design for a poster, or whatever it is." And then you're like, "Oh, I want to support you guys. I want to help out." So my typical day rate's 300, but because I want to help out, I can lower that to 100, and it's just a project rate or something like that. You just say, "Oh, I'll take 100, and then I'll do the whole project for you," depending on what that is, right, and how much time it's going to take you. But understanding, like, showing them that this is your typical rate, meaning this is how you survive and your job, but you're doing them a favor by lowering it to $50 to $100, whatever it is, because they have to have some budget. And then at least now you have an invoice, you have a contract, and you can get paid something at least, right? But something low, and they see that you're helping them out by lowering your rate to help them out because you want to. So these kind of project rates and estimates, there's always this negotiation of back and forth. Like, what is your estimate? What is your budget, right? So just understanding that most of the time I do day rates, and they just hire me by the week, 1 week at a time, or 2 weeks or 3 weeks, and I just get paid by the day, right? Um, Project rates, a lot of times that comes down to like a music video or something, and they'll say like, "Hey, we have $5,000 for a music video. We need this done by this time. Can you do it?" And then you, as a person, need to be like, "Okay, well, is $5,000 enough? How much time am I going to spend on it?" And kind of budget it out and being like, "Okay, I could take on 500 and spend this many amount of time," right? But what you charge also depends on what is the studio, what is the agency, what is the client. I can charge Google more because they're a bigger company, right? But I can't be charging Google rates and agency rates to smaller studios that are like 5 people, because they just can't afford to pay as much as Google, right? So asking around is important. Um, Motion freelance in the US, basically mid to senior level, it's about $400 to $800 a day, and you could go higher up depending on where you work. If you're at Google or Apple or Facebook, Meta, you're definitely getting more than 800 a day. But that comes with the cost of living, overhead costs as well, right? So, quick breakdown of this information of like what kind of programs I use, what kind of like things I pay for, subscription things I pay for, right? I have Adobe. This is the main thing, right? Adobe Creative Cloud, $30 a month. I use these three most of the time, and most of the time I just use After Effects, right? I don't really use Photoshop or Illustrator. Figma, big part of it, free. I just use that. Clients will send me files through Figma, and then I will animate those. Slack, free. I join them. Different groups, different clients, and I go from there. SingSketch is like a more personal thing, which I like for reviewing motion work, and that's a good way of just a nice program to review different motion elements. Google Workspace, this is what I have for all my projects. So you can see I have a project archive here. I pay $260 a year, and I basically get a Google email plus hard drives, shared drives, and then I can kind of archive all my projects per shared drive, which is nice. And you can share out these shared drives. Each individual project can be, each individual folder can be, you can add people to it and they can work from there as well. But this is most of my digital things. It's here. I also have Dropbox, but that sometimes I use it for different clients who use Dropbox, right? Accounting software stuff, keeping track of your expenses, keeping track of your invoices. That's kind of the two things I do, right? And I just use this Wave app. All you have to do is have your invoice, send it, mark as sent. I send the PDF in an email, done. Invoice tracking expenses. I have my credit card or debit card or bank account connected to that. So wherever purchases that is like business related, then I can have a list of it already and categorized for my accountant who I need to pay yearly, for my personal taxes and my corporation taxes, which is just a self-incorporated. I'm not sure how that works in Myanmar and Bangkok. Of like, do you need to self-incorporate as a business? That way you get more tax benefits or something like that. I don't know. But that's the cost of yearly cost of preparing taxes. Then, of course, it goes down to like how much taxes am I need to pay, right? This is my personal and corporation taxes total for 2023. So those are the taxes I need to pay every quarter. And then health insurance in the US, of course, I need to pay about $700 a month per health insurance. Rent in NYC averaging 2 to 3,000 for 12 a month, depending on where you live. Of course, you have to have water and gas and internet and phone, and then the cost of living as well, right? So it really adds up a lot. But keeping track of what you need, what is your cost of living in your local area, plus what is the average rate for a freelancer for a salary position, things like that. This one I saw, I don't know too much about it, but here's a freelancing pricing guide or something. And just Google that. Maybe that helps you look through this article. It's just a Wave, the accounting software's website, and it looks like they had a blog post that looked helpful. Other idea here is juniors might price themselves too low. So if you understand the average, let's say US average is 400 a day, let's say. And if you're coming in at like 200 a day, it might seem like you're too junior to a producer being like, why is Ivy charging 150? She might not have too much experience. And that means if I'm trying to save money for my company to hire somebody who's 250, but they're less experienced because they don't understand that the rate is actually 400 or something, right? They'll assume that, oh, maybe Ivy doesn't know too much. That means my senior animator or creative director needs to spend more time guiding them, and this is costing me too much. So I'm just gonna go with the other person who's 400 rather than this 200 person. Does that make sense? Right? So having this balance of like, okay, this is the average rate. How high do I go and how low do I go without scaring off the client, right? And feel free, you always had to feel free to ask your coworkers, ask your other freelancers, ask people in the industry, how much is too much? How what is your rate? What do I do? You know, and most of the time they're happy to help, right? Work-life balance. Staying late is okay, but of course you don't want to be staying late all the time. And if you're being asked to stay late all the time, that's not a good place. You probably want to try to find a new job because you're getting taken advantage of always staying late. Sometimes it's fine because you got to get a job done, right? And it's a job. Here you can see kind of like the days I worked outside of the total weekdays of a year. And a lot of the times out of Freelancer, I can kind of choose how many days I work and choose how many days I work, which is nice. So you can see in 2022, December, I just didn't do anything. I just didn't take on any jobs because sometimes you will have a week or two that just doesn't have any projects, right? That's the thing of freelancing. But also that's holiday time, so it's fine. I'm going on taking some break of holidays, right? Same thing in July of 2023. I had some travels, I had a friend's wedding, all that things adds up, and I can't work. And if I can't work, I don't get paid, right? That's the other thing about freelancing is if you don't work, you're not getting paid. But at least I'm fortunate enough that if I work 180 days a year, I'm good. I'm financially feeling okay, right? I don't have to worry too much about that. Other things is you don't have to be good at everything. If you're UX designer, focus on the UX, right? Me as a motion designer, I focus on 2D animation, but I'm always still constantly learning things, right? And you can see with I'm constantly Googling some, I'm constantly asking my friends questions about things because you can't learn everything. It's just so much stuff to learn, and specific project have specific problems that needs to be solved. And sometimes I get a project, I'm like, I have no idea how to do this, but I have enough experience to figure it out. And that's part of the job as well, being proactive and figuring it out as you go. You're being hired to solve those problems, right? But it helps to diversify, meaning, okay, you're a UX designer and you're really, really good at your wireframes and you're laying out things in Figma, but it doesn't hurt to have a little bit of coding experience. It doesn't hurt to have a little bit of motion experience, right? But maybe that's not your focus, but you still know a little bit here and there, and you can still showcase that a bit, right? So to showcase here, like I know how to do typography things, right? I know how to do illustrative things to animate those. I know how to do actual product prototypes, but that just comes with like my experience throughout. And I didn't know how to do motion prototypes until I worked at Be Real for a couple projects, right? I didn't know how to do type stuff until one of the other projects, and then I figured out, watch tutorials or ask my coworkers, right? So quickly, just being prepared for the opportunities that are coming, right? So if you're not prepared, you can't take on those opportunities. And of course, you want to make sure that you take on those opportunities as well when they come. Sometimes it's scary because maybe you don't know how to do it exactly, but you are like, okay, I think I could figure it out, then take that opportunity, right? Outreach, or getting towards the end here. Of course, you're looking for companies, right? Internships and jobs, and sometimes it is you send those things, you submit your information to those companies through their websites, right? But it doesn't hurt to message them on Instagram or message them on the email and say, hey, I really love your company and in Bangkok or something like that. And then I would just message them on Instagram or email and say, hey, I would love to come say hello. I would love to get a coffee and ask you about what your company's like. You get that intro in a way. You're not asking for a job, right? You're not asking for, hey, are you hiring? Are you doing internships? You're just saying, I'm interested. I would love to learn more about your company and see the space. Then you get usually they respond and they'll say, yeah, come by, say hello for 10 minutes and then head out, right? Or, oh, come by, we'll meet at the coffee shop next door and we'll say hello. That happens a lot, and it's nice because you meet them. And then later on, they might ask like, hey, we actually have a internship position coming up. Make sure you apply, right? Or, hey, there is a project coming up. You're a freelancer, right? So let me get your email. Like there's a lot of these kind of things that just come out. You're just building relationship at this point without asking for a job, basically. Conferences, networking events like this, right? So like Futura, same thing. Like coming to meetups, talking to people, building your social network. Portfolio, quickly, let's talk through. Only put the things that you want on your to be hired on your website. Don't overload your website with all kinds of stuff. Make sure it's kind of focused. Meaning, here's my website, right? When you get to my homepage, you just see the things I like to work on. I like character things. I like illustrations. I like collage animation. So when a producer or a creative director see my website, they will say, "Oh, Po does 2D animation. I see he does this. I see he does that. Okay, cool. Let's send him an email." That's the gist of a person reviewing work. They don't spend too much time on a website because they have so many other things to do. So they'll just look at your website, get a gist, click on one or two projects, and they're done. And they email or they don't email. That's it, right? Here's some examples on my friend's website. Very clear. You can kind of see what they do, right? Jade, I'm a motion designer who also does this, and that I'm based in this, and I like to do this. And then you can see her work is very graphic design, motion design focused, right? Then Gunkai, we have he does art direction, design, animation in New York, and he likes the concept and animate. And you can see this kind of style that he likes to do, more collagey, character, colorful things, right? You get an idea of what they like quickly, and then you see their information of like contact is right there. You can go to about and get the email, and they make it easier for the recruiters or producers to get those information, right? So to wrap up, I really suggest get an internship, get some kind of junior position or something full time to learn as much as you can and build your network before you even try freelancing, because that'll make it so much easier. Um, um, it really is lucky as well. There's a lot of luck involved of who you meet, what right place, right time situation, right? Um, uh, and then and then remember, it all depends on you doing this stuff. Nobody's gonna like guide you, being like handhold you, oh dude, make sure you do this, make sure you do this. It's up to you to do all these kind of things and be aware of these things and make these positive changes and help each other and that kind of stuff, right? Anyway, what is it, 8 now, so let's do the quick Q&A.